Well, we are live a few minutes late. Sorry about that. Tonight we are talking about how to cope with social isolation in the time of COVID. So, at least here in Minnesota, the shelter-in-place order has been extended. And I'm sure that's going to be true in other areas as well. So we wanted to talk about coping strategies on how to stay sane. I was just sending an email to a former patient, and she was telling me that she's living with her daughter and son-in-law and doing daycare while her adult children, work from home. And I said, well, I hope she's enjoying her grandparenting duties, but it makes it harder to spoil and send home when you live there. So even when you do have social interaction, it's a little different for many of us than maybe it might have been at other times. So what do you think about all this as an introvert?
Yeah, see, that's why we decided to talk about this today when we were talking about what we talk about tonight. And we thought it would be great because I know I'm an introvert. I, stay home. I work from home a lot. My weekends involve staying home and being home. So,
Hi, Fran.
Hi, Fran. This is kind of normal for me in some ways, but then of course not in others. I mean, it's not usual that I go to the grocery store and then when I bring it home, I have to wipe it all down before I put it in the cupboard. But so I was just like, I'm starting to struggle here. Like, I think we are on like week 5, and I'm starting to feel it, and I'm really starting to feel compassion for my extroverted friends that actually thrive on going out and being around people, where I, thrive on being alone. And when we look at the biggest indicators of health, number 1 is social integration. So, it makes me think too, in the long run, what are we doing to our health by being in this isolation?
Right, and I think we have to find new ways to be social, and there are many video conferencing services that are free, and I think it's time for people to really start to embrace that and start to have your coffee clutch or the Liars Club or whatever you call your group of friends that you like to get together with, and start doing it virtually. You need to probably, hi Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie.
You need to, and in fact, but it's interesting, people are reluctant because we have suggested many times that we have that technology available to us, and if people want to do a live interactive video conference rather than just watch us drone, that would be cool. We'd love to do that. And I think we can get about 99 people on all at once, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal to do it. But in any event, this idea of being socially isolated, I'm an introvert too, and we're just asking you extroverts to live in our world for just a little while. We have to live in your world all the time, where people think that unless you're super outgoing, that there's something wrong with you. But there's a great book entitled Quiet, which really talks about the power of introversion. And extroverts always read it, or they hear about it and they go, yeah, whatever. But the truth is, there's a big difference between the way introverts and extroverts navigate the world. And I think us introverts are probably surviving somewhat better navigating it better maybe than the extroverts, but even the introverts are starting to feel the social isolation.
Yeah,
so
I'm starting to feel it. So how can we go from, this internal struggle to thriving? Like, how can we thrive in this situation, whether we're introverted, whether we're extroverted? I think that is going to be just key in keeping us all well as well.
Yeah.
Because the longer we sit like this, because we're looking at another month for sure, that's another 4 weeks. So, I think part of part of it is that idea that we have that much longer, where really we should be bringing ourselves into the present moment and really just doing what we can today. And I've really been diving into a couple great books lately and just trying to find things that really feed my soul that I normally don't have time for, that I know once everything is up and running again, I won't have time for. So
Yeah. And I've been doing a lot of meditation, so trying to stay present in this moment, trying to find projects and doing hobbies and things that maybe require being present. So a little Zen training. Living full-time with a 6-year-old is some Zen training.
a cooped up 6-year-old, that's an extrovert.
Yeah, he's a serious extrovert. He if he meets you on the street, he will ask you, "How old are you? What's your favorite food? And when's your birthday?"
And how much do you weigh?
And how much do you weigh? Yeah, how much do you weigh?
You know, when he comes up to a middle-aged woman, I'm always like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. He's going to ask you these questions like, what's your name? How much do you weigh? How old are you? I'm always just like, oh, he's young and he's cute, so he can get away with it, but it's funny.
It is funny. Bridget, hi. Mandy, hi. Brenda, hi.
So we're just really diving into ways that we can survive this, not only survive, but that's the thing. We don't want to survive. We want to thrive in this social isolation and really use it to our advantage in those areas that maybe we wouldn't have enough time for.
Yeah.
So in one of them was meditation is great. Creativity, we are all meant to create. We're born to create. So maybe there's a hobby you used to have that you don't have
or
time
didn't have.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe it's something you've always wanted to try. Now is a great time to try that.
Yeah, like that hobby of building nuclear weapons or something, No?
You shouldn't even say things like that right now. Hi, Carol. Yeah, I was thinking like painting and writing.
I was thinking more like Big Bang Theory and what's the guy's name? Sheldon Cooper. But whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, hobbies, whatever your hobby might be. And mine's photography. So doing this, getting to play with all of my photography gear.
Yeah.
We have a kind of an elaborate studio over at my office, and because the kids are here, and because a young one is here, we really can't run over there and use our fancy set with all the pretty blue lights in the background and everything. But maybe soon we can start using that again. And that's where I've got my better cameras. This is just my iPhone backwards and all that stuff. But so that's one thing. Photography is something you can do, and it's kind of fun for me, at least, to try to frame something so that it's mundane until you take the photograph and the lighting makes it dramatic and everything. Or getting on your phone, with FaceTime or whatever video app you have to chat with friends and family. Like I said earlier, try to get one of the free conferencing apps and get your 4 or 5 friends together and have everybody set their phone up on the table so that you can watch each other drink coffee and you can talk smart and all those things.
Sent that suggestion out to my girlfriends last week, so we're still waiting to pull it together. But I was like, well, we can't get together. Why don't we all get on a Zoom call and spend an hour chatting with each other and catching up? It's different when, at least, I know Zoom still isn't the same. It's still not the same, but it is a step up. It's a step up from texting, from regular phone calls where you can't see.
Well, I'll tell you something. I'm on a COVID task force for the Institute for Functional Medicine, and there are 4 of us, I guess, that are meeting at least once a week, maybe twice a week. And we're the ones who put together a lot of the stuff if you're interested in sort of a natural approach to what should I do for COVID, go to the ifm.org and look up their COVID response. So I'm on the team that's putting that stuff together, and we're currently looking at another layer, and we're doing deep dives into the research. But I brought that up only because we're on this Zoom call and there's only 4 of us, and it's very conversational actually. It's hard if there's 6 or 10 or 12, but if there's 4 or 5 or 6, it's pretty conversational, and the screen is big enough. A regular computer screen is big enough that you can see everybody, and everybody can talk, and it works well. And it works better, I think, if you use your phone for audio and the computer for video. When you try to do it all over the computer, and you're having 6 or more, 6 people or so, it does overwhelm the bandwidth for most home, Wi-Fi or internet. But using your phone for the audio and the computer for video, it actually works pretty darn good. So I would highly encourage you to think about doing that. I would highly encourage you, if you have young kids, get 2 or 3 of the kids and put them on a Zoom call and let them just, make noise and vibrate together. It will help them. So that, use technology to our advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Yeah, and I have also found it helpful to bring in some of my normal routines. So the first week home, I pretty much spent all week in my pajama pants and didn't brush my hair. And it was glorious. It was like Saturday every day. And then after a while, you get to the realization that, okay, this is enough. And Saturdays are so special because they only happen once a week. So I found if I get up in the morning and I get dressed right away and I do all the things I would normally do before I would walk out of the house in the morning, it just feels a little bit more normal. And there's a little bit of a routine to it. Otherwise, it seems like we just kind of I get in just the stirring pot of all the different things that I'm doing, and there's really no rhyme or reason to my day, and I can really bring in a lot of chaos that way. So I found if I just stay on some sort of a schedule, what?
Oh, nothing.
And get ready, and I put on my lipstick, and there's nobody here but me and the kids, but it still feels so much more normal. So I've been trying to do that, as well as some of the other different things that I've been incorporating in my day, in the creating part, in the journaling, and
yeah,
meditating.
And so bringing structure into your day, bringing some ritual into your day. We've talked about ritual many times, but I get up at 6, I meditate, and then I go into my office and I work until about noon, and I call it going into the dungeon. I emerge from the dungeon around noon. We have a meal together, or try to, and then I return to the dungeon and continue to work, and hopefully making some progress. I'm not convinced I am, but hopefully making some progress. So, bringing the structure to your day, because that's what work does, really. It brings a structure to your day. And then some ritual. So, if it's a meditation practice or suddenly the word has escaped me, the word gratitude practice, or whatever, some kind of ritual to your day, and some kind of thanks for the fact that we have some degree of shelter and safety and community, and this too shall pass.
Yeah.
So I think those are very important things. What you've been reading a book that's really speaking to you. Is there anything in there that speaks to this moment?
That's a great question. I wish you had asked me that like a half an hour ago, so I could have thought about it before. But nothing is coming to my mind at this second.
Okay. Well, how about for you guys?
Yeah.
What's going on in your lives that you're finding is helping you cope with the social isolation of being sequestered, sheltered in place, as they say? We're trying to get out for a walk every day. We're fortunate we live in the country, so we'd have to work to get within 6 feet of somebody, which, by the way, I've been saying, all of you have been listening, I've been saying 6 feet, that's not enough. And now the studies are coming out. One of the reasons for the recommendations, which I don't know why they're not universally endorsed, but one of the recommendations is wear a mask anytime you leave your home. And that can be as simple as a bandana or one of those buff things, you know, that you can just pull up over your nose. And the reason why is because a sneeze or a cough can shoot aerosolized, not the large droplets, but aerosolized particles much further than 6 feet. And our concern, or my concern, is we're walking on the state trail and people are going by us on a bicycle. Well, I mean, they're just leaving a trail of detritus behind them, right? So, you know, at what point is it safe? And the answer is further than 6 feet. But if everybody's wearing a mask, then the particles are actually more or less getting stuck in the mask and not traveling. And then, of course, take your mask off and wash it from time to time. I think probably an interesting technique would be to saturate your bandana in colloidal silver and allow it to dry, and now you have a silver impregnated cloth. And I think that will help also. It's, again, the mask is not to protect you from other people. The mask is to protect other people from you. And it may help protect you somewhat, because I think the biggest way it may help protect you is it'll keep your hands off your face. Because touching your eye and touching your nose and touching your lips, and, you know, like at the very beginning of this, when there was some health official, a woman was talking about sheltering in place and how important it was, and then she licked her fingers and turned the page. And we just do that by, you know, I'm not making, well, I am making fun of her because it's hilarious, but also it's just what we do, right? We all do it. It's habit, and it's really hard to break those habits. And, you know, I got old man what are these things called? Eyebrows that are curling down in my eyes, and I'm always like, oh God, what's going on? I suppose I could trim those, but it seems like a lot of work, so I don't. So, you know, there's just so much going on, and we're getting bored with it, right? At first, I think there was you know, it's almost like at first everybody's a little more scared, and so okay, well, we'll do whatever needs to be done. And now you're looking out your windows, especially here in Minnesota, where we don't have a huge catastrophe yet. And I think in large part we don't have a huge catastrophe because places like New York have done a pretty good job of containing it. They had a bad outbreak. It got out of hand before they really jumped on top of it, but then they jumped on top of it. And so they have really contained a lot of the spread, which is a beautiful thing for us. I've said from the beginning, if we do this right, it's going to feel like we wasted our time, right? If we do this right, it's going to feel like it was a waste and it was an overreaction. But because people have done the right thing, in our area, you look outside and you don't see dead bodies floating down the river, so it must not be that bad. But the reason why it's not that bad is because we're sheltering in place. Unlike what you're hearing from a lot of, I'm going to say, very poorly informed individuals on YouTube and other places who are, you know, telling us that it's some kind of conspiracy to get the government wants to do something. The deep state wants to do something to us or something. And that's just, from my perspective, not scientific. Oh, so what does Bridget say?
I was socially.
Yeah, you were socially isolated for years.
For years.
Yep.
It is quite as difficult as some others who have never lived it. Difference is I am not as sick as I once was. Yes, breaking habits.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one thing to be socially isolated because you're sicker than a dog and don't have the interest in being out. When you feel better and would like to be out, boy, I mean, they're both difficult. Who wants to be sick, right? You don't want to be so sick you don't want to be out. But at the same time, there's a different psychology to feeling better and not being able to get out. And Christina, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, so it's difficult. And again, ritual and practice. You know, it's interesting. We did a video on COVID-19 and we talked about, you know, social distancing and all that stuff way at the beginning. And on YouTube that got a whole bunch of views. I mean, for us, a whole bunch of views. It was a few hundred. And then we started talking about things that you could actually do that weren't like some, take this miracle pill, things like sleep and exercise and eat well and, all the things that we talk about. And, they get a lot of views in our room here from you guys, and boy, do I appreciate that. Thank you. But none on YouTube. And yet it's what we can actually do. And these are seriously important health topics. The fancy pill that you can get from Amazon or on Amazon, either from the Amazon forest, because everything fancy, it's like there's a Friends thing, a Friends episode, the old Friends television show, and, the ditzy blonde, whatever her name was, Phoebe is, they're putting waxing stuff on their bodies to get hair off, and one of them says, "Oh yeah, well it's from the Amazon." "Oh yeah, well everything cool comes from the Amazon." And they put it on and then rip, they both go, "Wah!" It's sort of like that. Just because it came from the Amazon doesn't mean it's any different than any other wax. It's still going to hurt when you rip it off. And it's the same sort of thing with this. The truth is, good health happens every day. It's not a 10-day fast. It's not a 10-day cleanse. It's not a 10-day detox. It's not a 10-day anything. If you're doing it for 10 days, then you're doing it to 355 days too short. And, sleeping well every day, managing your stress every day, exercising every day, all those things, and figuring out how to cope with social isolation. These are seriously gigantic topics. And you really do have to put some creativity into this. And, because it feels ridiculous. Like, what do I want to get on a Zoom call with 4 of my friends for? That just sounds pathetic. Well, but it isn't pathetic. It's human. Because humans are not isolated creatures. They don't live in isolation. We are troop animals like all other primates. We are troop animals. And we need social grooming. We need people to pull the parasites off our back, grooming through our fur like chimpanzees, only hopefully in a little more sophisticated way. And by that, we need to tell our stories. We need to hear other people's stories. We need to hear the appropriate cooing noises when things are going poorly for us. We need all of that in our lives. It's very, very important. And between our total disregard for sleep, I'll sleep when I'm dead kind of attitude, and our disregard for social context in our society and in U.S. American culture, we're all John Wayne on steroids. In fact, John Wayne's kind of a wuss. He had buddies that he had with him on all of his adventures. So, this idea that we don't need anybody is just ridiculous. Most people look for a quick fix. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what I'm saying. Everybody wants the magic pill that's going to make it all better. And so in the Institute for Functional Medicine Response, there's a whole list of supplements that you can take. And my statement at the time that this was being done was 90% of the good is probably coming from the basic lifestyle choices. Maybe you can get another 10% on top of really good lifestyle choices with some supplements. And so fortunately, they've done an outstanding job of doing a deep dive into the science of diet and lifestyle. And there's a beautiful lecture on the Institute for Functional Medicine website with Deanna Minnick and somebody else. I can't remember who. But anyway, Deanna is a friend of ours and a beautiful person who's deeply knowledgeable. And then I like to think that our last week videos of the 5 modifiable lifestyle factors are helpful too. But we don't have this big of an audience, so maybe not as big of a circulation of those things. So, I'm wondering, what else do you guys have to say? What else can we talk about in terms of how are you coping with the social isolation? I think there's this idea of crowdsourcing. I can tell you things, but it's only one person. If we share, some magical things can often come out. And somebody's typing maybe. Yolanda, hi.
Hi.
So Yolanda, give us your best wisdom about how you're coping with social isolation. We've been talking about social isolation and how important it is, not to put you on the spot or anything, but so just to give you an idea about the wisdom of groups. We used to do group medical visits, and I had a group that was doing an elimination diet, and we were talking about elimination diet. And one of the things we were talking about is, well, how do you become more active? And this one woman was saying, oh, it's just so hard for me. It's so hard to get out there and do it. And another woman in the group said, well, you know what? It's hard for me too. Let's get together. Let's do it together. Let's be accountability partners for each other. So about 2 weeks later, we're having another meeting, and this woman stands up. She's extremely proud because she and this other woman have been out running every day, or walking actually every day, and she's going to prove it to us. And they tell this funny story about how they were out power walking, and she tripped and fell, and at that moment she dropped her drawers and showed us the big bruise on her butt. So don't think people won't overshare, because they will. So, what do you got for us, guys? How are we gonna migrate? What's the word I'm looking for? Manage, I guess, for lack of I was going to use a fancy word, but manage. How are we going to manage the social isolation, especially going forward, where this is probably not ending real soon? Yolanda, you're coming through. Honestly, it's forcing me to slow down and really enjoy the little things more. Yeah, and somebody just thumbed up to you, and that's exactly right. It's really giving the whole world a rest. I don't know if it's true or not, but I understand that the canals of Venice are clean. I've been there in the summertime when the canals smell like sewage, and I understand that they're almost clear because there aren't any tourists there, and the entire world is getting the opportunity to take a breath. Unfortunately, that is also among angst and anxiety about running out of money, right? And you're getting a stimulus check. Well, how stimulating is that check you're getting, right? It's not very big compared to what you're not making at your job. So there's this angst and anxiety, and slowing down, enjoying what is in front of us. And I like to say, if you're worrying about something and there's something you can do about it, well, then you should do it, right? It's like in Tin Cup, and it's towards the end of the movie, and he's trying to hit this ball. He's in, PGA championship or something, and he's trying to hit the ball, and it keeps going in the water, clunk, clunk. So finally, Cheech Marin goes up to him, who's his caddy, and says, well, what are you doing? He says, well, I can make this shot. Well, he's blowing the whole tournament. He's in the lead, and every time he hits the ball, he loses 3 spots in the thing. He's going to be out of it totally. And I can make this shot. Oh, well, and Cheech says, well, okay, well, then quit screwing around. Make the shot. So if you're worrying about something and there's something you can do, quit screwing around. Do something about it. But if there's nothing you can do about it, figure out how to let it go. And right now, if you're not making any money, you can certainly be working on some way to make money. You can be thinking about, what can I do online? What can I do this? How can I do that? How can I cut down on my expenses? You can be trying to work that problem, but at some point you have to just let it go too. Because this is a lot, it's hopefully not going to be as bad as the Great Depression, but people lost everything in the Great Depression. My parents lost everything in the Great Depression, and they survived. They made it through. Now, some people didn't. Some people couldn't cope. That was a time of great numbers of suicide. So hopefully by really keeping this on the forefront and staying mindful and present and finding real joy in what's happening right now, as Yolanda's suggesting, we don't fall into that trap of depression because we think somehow we failed, when the unfortunate truth is that all boats rise with the tide and all boats sink with the tide. And the tide is going out right now. It's just what's happening. So being mindful about where your true worth comes from, which is in simply being human, that's just what's going to happen. And I've said for decades I'm going to be working until my plan is to retire 3 days after my funeral. I always say if it was good enough for Christ, it's good enough for me. I'm not sure he retired, but he came back anyway. All right, what else?
Well, let's see. We missed something up here too.
Oh, did we?
Yeah. Mandy said it's pretty sad when you're ready to go back to work.
Yeah, that's right.
Said, I'm enjoying my family time.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I am too. I'm trying to really, the end of some days like today, I feel really tired. But that's part of the reason why we switched it to 7 tonight instead of our typical 8:30 is because my big boys, my 14 and 6-year-old, have talked me into watching Stranger Things. And so that's what we're dedicating our evenings to after the 6-year-old goes to bed is watching this scary show that I've always said I'm not going to watch with them.
So imagine we're probably, my idea of a scary movie is a chick flick, and so I'm just not into scary films. But
He's actually jumping more than I was last night.
I'm a complete.
He's like, this is scary.
I'm a complete.
Like, it is scary. It's. But
but we're doing it because they want to do it, right? Yeah, what's the prediction regarding isolation now? Well, in Minnesota, they've extended it another month. New York has probably not hit peak yet. So we aren't even at peak in the epicenter. They're probably a little past peak in Seattle. I don't know what's going on in Florida. Maybe Yolanda can tell us, but I suspect they're not at peak yet either. So, we're still in the thick of it. And how much longer we need to isolate is, I think at some point we have to figure out how to manage it. And I think, one of the things for people when they start going back to work, they need to be taking their temperature every morning. They need to be wearing a mask all the time. They need to be washing their hands all the time. And hopefully that's what most, certainly food workers are doing now, I hope. And we'll just have to see what happens. Who would have ever imagined in their lifetime that we would be in this kind of historic moment? Yeah. What were you going to say?
Yolanda said, I am also realizing I need less and can downsize even with a lot of our expenses.
I need to learn that lesson. I need to learn that lesson. Stranger
Things is amazing.
It's amazing? Oh, okay.
It seems like it's definitely caught us on the first episode, so.
So Florida's at peak.
Okay.
And you're currently set.
Not at peak yet.
Oh, not at peak. I need better glasses.
And currently set for the end of April, but it may be extended.
Almost certainly it'll be extended, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, because we don't have 10% of what you guys have, and we've already been extended to May, so.
Mid-May, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Too bad.
yeah. So coping, I really encourage you guys, look into some of the free options for some video conferencing. Get on the video conference with, like I said, 4 to 6 people is super manageable. You can have a back and forth, 3, 4, or 5 way conversation pretty well if you use your phone for the audio and the computer for video. If you try to do all of it on just your computer, it'll overwhelm your bandwidth for most homes. But if you split the bandwidth into phone and computer, usually you can do a good job with it. So I really encourage that. I encourage some kind of centering practice, whether it's prayer or meditation or, whatever your thing is, and some structure to your day. We got to just get back to some semblance of normalcy so that we can keep our sanity. And remember, this is something that's happening to us. It's not something that we're doing. So the notion that you're a failure because your business is going under, as ours are, You know, or if the notion is I'm a failure because of whatever reason, it just, you know, it's not true. We're so eager to beat ourselves up. Treat yourself the way you would treat your best friend in your most compassionate voice. Yusuf, great. How you doing, man? So, Yusuf, we're talking about coping with social isolation, and I was mentioning, actually, Yusuf is one of the people on our little group. I was saying it's actually pretty easy to have, you know, a 4 or 5 person conversation on Zoom. And I was recommending that people think about looking into some of those free services and utilizing them. So how are you managing social isolation? Although you're still seeing patients in the real live world, aren't you? So maybe you're not feeling quite as isolated as other people. Maybe you'd crave some isolation, huh? Yolanda, structure to the day is huge, and I have to say your videos are super helpful to me because being mindful of my health is, well, I need better glasses. Is what is
wellness help me cope. Everyone needs to find what works best for them.
We're using an iPhone. I'm not smart enough to use an iPad, even though I have a really giant one. If I use the iPad, I could probably read it.
That's true.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I think structure is huge. I mentioned that a little bit earlier, how, you know, the first week I just kind of let myself go, and then after that I've been getting up every morning and caring about my day as I would like I'm going off to work. Just getting ready, I think, gets me in that next stage of getting more things accomplished and staying on task. And having the kids on a schedule has been huge as well.
Yep. So, Mary, hi. You know, I don't know, it's like we started at 7. You're coming on because you think it was going to happen at 8 because that's when we usually do it, right? Or do we do it at 8:30?
We usually do it at 8:30, yeah.
Oh, well. So we did it early tonight because we have family plans for watching Stranger Things with the older boys. We watched one last night, scared the crap out of me, so I don't know if I'm going to handle it. But anyway, so if there's any other comments or questions or suggestions, we'd love to hear them. Otherwise, we're going to let you go. What do you have to say?
Give it a second.
Give it a second? Okay.
Just because sometimes it takes a little bit. I've noticed that we say that and then we end and then we see a question or two pop up later, but it seems to be pretty quiet.
Let's see. What did the right eye say to the left eye?
Oh, Fran said thank you.
Welcome, Fran. Thanks for being here. Fran, what did the right eye say to the left eye? This is a dad joke. I'll bet you know. Hi, Carol. Thank you.
Thanks for
So
watching.
the right eye said to the left eye, something smells between us. That's bad, isn't it?
It's a great joke.
For a 6-year-old.
Yeah. It's a great joke for a 6-year-old.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're going to go. And thank you. So thankful that you're tuning in, and hopefully this is helpful to you. I think it's helpful for us. And we will be back tomorrow night. We'll announce what time, but probably in the 7 range because it seems like it's working better. Hi, Barb.
Hi, Barb.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye. Oh, I see something else too.
Oh, okay. Good.
Oh.
Good thing my fat fingers wouldn't hit the thing.
They're commenting about
You're
your
a dork.
joke.
Lame-o. Oh, now I'm going to read all these. Lame-o. You're a dork. Yeah, it's true.
Not lame-o. Laugh my ass off.
Oh, is that what it's?
Yeah.
Oh, laugh my ass off, not lame-o. Oh, it's probably the same. Fran probably thinks I'm a lame-o anyway. Hi, Melissa. And Barb, again, you're welcome. All right, we're going to go.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.